up, what does debate actually mean to talk about? First, I think there's action motion, meaning that it sticks to the perspective that's benefiting Ivan the most. But secondly, what's the burden? I think first, prove why living with a lie is morally wrong and will create a bigger amount of guilt for Ivan. Secondly, why in the end of the day it won't give sustainable fulfillment for Ivan. Thirdly, how with all the harms and backlash Ivan will be okay with this. But several characterization. First, how social actions high school student might look like. One, he might still have a little amount of friends. Probably these friends are them who have already known Ivan for many years, knowing him better, or probably the one has, same interest or struggle as Ivan. Then he still have those kind of besties that to always support him no matter what. But secondly, then you are probably having the difficulty to socialize whether with Konrád or your friend, either because A, you are an introvert kind of person, you still have the capacity to talk, but it's so hard for you to face a crowd, or B, probably you have the trauma in trusting or aligning with the people. Or secondly, then how this misunderstanding is formed. Firstly, probably you are the one that's accessing the scene and that's the only way for you to get safe at the moment. But secondly, then the family in state of grief and you are also in a state of confusion of mind to decide the betterment of yourself in that crucial time. Your instinct saying that you have to calm down. For this kind of people that's already grieving is the defensive mechanism. But how Ivan will confess the lie? First, confess through the Konrád family, probably through the dinner or the time they get together, telling the truth that you are barely even know Konrád, you don't have the big amount of proximity with him. Secondly, you can try to return everything that Konrád's family has already given to you, the fame, the amount of money they give, or thirdly, you will open up to the public, telling them the truth and try to clarify what other things are happening. But several arguments then. Firstly, then, why living with a lie is morally wrong and will create a bigger amount of guilt for Ivan. Note how from the beginning, Ivan receiving those fames and love through riding the wave, through the suffering from the other family or stranger he didn't even know. Sure, probably at first, Ivan might feel hard to clarify everything because of the bad timing, but the sooner the time goes, we all know that there's actually a time where Konrád's family feels slightly relief from the grief, right? Meaning there's actually a time for Ivan to clarify everything that's going on. But the moment Ivan chooses to live deeper through the lie, meaning that A, Ivan will utilize even further the amount of grief from somebody to benefit himself personally. Secondly, Ivan will live into a more further lies, trying to convince as if the lies were true for his entire life, probably through learning about somebody that's already dead or that doesn't even know him. Why this is bad? First, the love that Ivan trying to invest will give the same amount of return. Exactly because the one that's trying to understand is already dead. Ivan didn't even know if Konrád ever hate him or not in his past life. In the end of the day, Ivan will be super excited with all of his life, spending the rest of his life unable to have the full free will to become wherever he wants to dream and have to live within the expectation from the family he barely even know. But secondly then, the longer Ivan keep the truth, the bigger amount of guilt he will keep, either for the K's family or the K's closest friend. To the point the moment Ivan started to confess the truth, it has already been late, where Ivan can't escape anymore. Probably some members of the K has already been dead too. They are going to be dead living in a fake scenario that Ivan has created. Why this is bad? A. K's family feel betrayed to the most because they have invested some amount of proximity with you, probably gonna sue you or blame you as a liar for their entire life. But B, then, you will lose your past friend because they will not trust in you anymore, losing the Ivan first that they love. But C, as somebody that's socially anxious, you will start to feel disappointed with yourself for treating somebody so dirty, led you to do harmful stuff because no one there for you. Comparatively, when you start to reveal the lies as soon as possible, even if there will be some amount of backlash from the people that already respect you, at least there will be some, it will happen in short term and it hasn't gone too far. You can have the platform to clarify you what you're actually doing all of this time, and some people might understand your intention. Why likely? A, everyone have ever done white lies in their entire life. 2, secondly, respect your bravery to say honestly before it went too far. 3, all of the cost of your life that you have spent towards the family will be credited as someone that are sincere hero, for example. But at least this is the best sacrifice you can do to respect yourself and have a more free will in the future. But B, then, even if you lose your community or friend, it's fine because at first you are socially anxious. It's not a big deal because without them you can still living yourself happily without having to invest more amount of energy lying with them, or you can still have a real friend or family that will support you no matter what. But see then, you prevent yourself from a bigger amount of grief in the future. You don't have to live under the idea that you are a liar or traitor for the rest of your life because you can finally escape from the moral responsibility that you didn't even assign. So why preventing Ivan from the bigger grief is important? A, respecting Ivan as a human. This is the prerequisite for Ivan to reach a real happiness or full self-agency for himself. B, protect the actor from a bigger moral responsibility that he didn't even approach to. The second argument then, why in the end of the day it will give sustainable fulfillment for Ivan? Opportunity might telling you that how this is stepstone for Ivan Ivan to climb a ladder to have a better life. But let's analyze why this is not in line within the interest of Ivan. I think as a normal human being, sure, Ivan might be happy in the short term for all this kind of fame or respect he already get from, this kind of family, for example. But notice, from the perspective of the socially anxious person lens, for the long-term impact, one, it will be so much more harder for Ivan to further interact with a lot amount of people in the future. He might meet from the people from the community, or friends, or whatsoever. These people are even constantly without even knowing their background interests or even their willingness to even understand Ivan as a totally new person. Why this is bad? A. Lesser room for Ivan to recharge his super draining energy. B. He must fit into the role that what Konrád has portrayed him to be, which you can behave as yourself. Thirdly, then, if you act weird, you'll be judged, questioned, or in the worst case, losing them. That will cost you a double energy to clarify that stuff towards Konrád's family. But secondly, then, Ivan might not feel satisfied with all the accomplishment he received, because for his entire life he will always believe that all of the happiness he received right now is through somebody's suffering or somebody's hand without even his own effort. This was the impact then. First, he will be super dependent to somebody's help to get what he wants. Secondly, he can adjust the career route or path of life he personally want to achieve because it has been determined. Thirdly, his closest friend might judge him also as a somebody social loving person and never respect him even though one day he achieved things by himself. What's the comparative? First, in our side, the sooner he revealed the lie, he can start to reroute the life he wanted to be and get along with whoever he want to interact. Secondly, he can escape from the label of Konrád's grace upon all of his achievement. Thirdly, then, he can still offer a cooperation with Kay's family with a more honest way. Why Kay's family will accept him? Because they appreciate your past effort for the kid that he didn't even know. Why all this thing important? One, as a socially anxious person, Ivan can appreciate the smallest accomplishment he received from his own hand that he barely even get from his past life because he always depended towards the Konrád's family. But secondly, then, the happiness fulfillment that Ivan get can be much more sustainable in the future because because in the end of the day he can have more control upon whatever that he want to achieve. Therefore, for all this reason, I think we can protect more Konrád. We can even protect Ivan more from further harm from all those kind of fake scenarios that Ivan himself will trying to create it, or even like from the other people that put an expectation from him because perceive him as Konrád's best friend. Or to protect Ivan from a further kind of harm, we are very proud to propose.